Ladies and gentlemen, we are back for another review for The Boys, Season 4, Episode 5. Got the full panel here. I'm just going to go ahead and expose everybody, get them out of here. What's going on, everybody?
Hello.
Hey,
Hey, what's going on? How's it going?
Another crazy journey. This insane show that just does not quit. When you've got farm animals that are like legitimately exploding people and like rabid beasts, I don't know, like it's a thing of nightmares. Like, I mean, you got a bunny literally going and like, anyway. So it's coming off the last episode. The last episode is fairly sure we all think the same exact things. One of the best episodes of The Boys. And so for them to kind of come up with this one was like, all right, is it going to be on the same level? Are they going to continue the intensity? I think that they kept the crazy all the way in there. And I was going to kind of get off you guys' perspective on the different storylines because there's a lot of weeded storylines in this one, whether it's Huey's relationship with his dad and his mom, whether it was John Carlo being back in this, his presence here and with his surrogate daughter, so to speak. And then also, I mean, everything that's going on with Frenchie. There's a lot of different relationship dynamics that are just kind of being pushed to their limit. And while this is all going on, like Homelander and his son is just growing more and more impatient and a lot of power. So I guess we can stick it to Homelander first because I mean he was the topic of everything last episode, and he seems a lot more sure of himself. Like he's got this new refined confidence no matter who he's around, and he's kind of like sharing his parental perspective to Ryan with little to no empathy, but he's trying to use that as a target, so to speak, for Ryan to kind of use. Can you guys talk towards that, or Ryan and Homelander in this episode?
yeah, I guess the bad part of me actually really enjoyed that scene with the assistant just smacking the shit out of PJ Byrne. Um because he was being a dickhead, he was sexually harassing her and he kind of deserved
Hmm.
it.
Yep.
Um at the same time, the sick pleasure that was on Ryan's face in that moment, he's a child, he doesn't need to be reveling in that kind of uh you know, torture and such. So it's exciting, but it's also a little bit scary to see. I don't want him to go too far off the deep end and become too much like his dad.
Right.
Yeah. I agree. It was very enjoyable watching that happen, but at the same time, um you're starting to see that like he's seeing that he can control
Yep.
people. It
Mhm.
that's the and that's the biggest issue. Like even though this time it was like, yep, that was enjoyable. He's like, oh, I'm doing good, and it's good seeing this guy get what's coming to him. Homelander, on the other hand, is happy because his son is viewing humanity the way he views humanity as people that he can control
Mhm.
because he's all powerful.
Yep.
And so yeah, definitely a two-edged sword there. But at the same time, it's very interesting because coming off, like you were saying, coming off episode 4, it seems like Homelander's just so much more clear now,
Mhm.
as far as like he almost has tunnel vision now instead of all the 7 different hymns yelling different things. It's like, I got some things set straight, and now I'm gonna go back to being, like Butcher said, diabolical.
Busy, what your thoughts, man?
So, I with the whole thing with that Rai was saying, it's just to see Ryan in that element where he is taking excitement and just pure joy out of the slapping or the revenge, if you will. Again, I understand the revenge; it's always sweet, but at the end of the day, it's a little concerning since he is still a young dude, and it's always concerning, especially because of who his parent is. I'm curious to see how far Ryan as a person is going to go. We have that kind of situation with Butcher where he has that parasite in his head and he's seeing his ex-wife. So I'm just waiting for a moment where Ryan is gonna come to the realization that his mom isn't gonna be accepting half the stuff that he's doing. and then he's gonna end up like kind of having a manifestation of her.
Right.
But it's interesting to watch, but at the same time, I'm just concerned he's gonna turn out like the picture you just showed with Brightburn. Don't want
Right.
a whole similar situation to that because that kid was nuts. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really know the levels or the depths of how strong Ryan's gonna be. I mean, in all actuality, he could end up stronger than Homelander. So it's kind of like we know people like the Flash, for instance. Like the Flash, he gets himself into trouble all the time because he chooses to take his own actions and his perspective of what's the right thing, but it affects everyone around him if it's not kept in check. Like at this point, Ryan doesn't have anything to look at like, oh, like this is a cost to this. Like if I do this to this guy that did this wrong, this evil, I'm gonna take my enjoyment of it. Like, no, like you're slowly gonna not even care anymore. And so there has to be some level of empathy there. And if it's not kept in check, it's like what 2 episodes ago he killed somebody and he gave a good reaction like I killed somebody, but now like that's an afterthought. And so the more and more he's exposed to this, the worst case scenario is going to come.
Because his dad told him to get over it.
Right.
And the sick thing is that wasn't even someone who committed a crime. That was
Mhm.
like an innocent person that he killed. So the
Right.
fact that he got over as fast as he did because of the manipulation of Homelander, again, it's extremely concerning. And again, it all comes up to their upbringing and
Mhm.
how one is raised. So again, it's not entirely too late for Ryan, but again, it's concerning.
Yeah, I think it's a good segue. Let's go ahead and kind of get into my man Butcher. I love Jeffrey D. Morgan. He's an amazing actor, but he is bringing out the darkest side of Butcher that I'm scared of. And I think this interesting how they use Butcher in this because, in the beginnings of the episode, like he confided in Mother's Milk, like what's going on with him. He confided in the team, like what he's dealing with. They're ready to kick him off the team, but he still was like, look, you still need me. And so at this point, like they're all flowing together. Matter of fact, he saw one of the little bunny rabbits that had a little tent V and he let it go. And I think Kamiko was like smiling at him. And so they're getting used to the idea of like having him around again. And he's trying to fight because he feels like, one, I've got to fight for Ryan. Two, I've got to fight for, my crew because they need me, even if I don't have that much time left. But last episode, I mean, we knew, well, 2 episodes ago, we don't know what Butcher did. Like, we just know everything in that cabin was just destroyed. And I think, in my personal opinion, but I want you guys to kind of tell your look on it. After he saw the bunny that had a tent V, like basically turning into a monster with tentacles, I think he realized that is my reality. And at this point now, he's going to do whatever he has to do, even if that goes to a darker place. And I think that's why he teamed back up with Jeffrey D. Morgan, because I mean, he cut my man's leg off. Like the scientists didn't do nothing to no one, and like he got him in like a Saw situation. And I was like, man, who got the gosh darn doctor? What did he do? And so now he's got leverage and he's got a little bit of power himself, but it's because I think it's out of fear. But I wanted you guys' opinion because there's so many different impacts on where this is going to go. But what do you guys think about Butcher in this episode and then the high level impact on him taking the doctor?
So,
I mean,
oh, go ahead.
okay, so quick thoughts. I mean, it kind of reminded me of the first season of just do whatever it takes. I don't care who's on my team. I don't care what I have to do. Just do whatever it takes to take down whatever. So, it was really interesting to see what he was willing to do to get to his goal. And I feel like this is the Butcher that I really enjoyed seeing in season one, as sick as that sounds. So I'm truly curious to see what his end game is and how this is going to play out. I don't know if he's willing to you know take down one of his boys in order to get to where he needs to go, but clearly he's not thinking straight, and that's kind of an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting because what I just said about Homelander, how he's kind of gotten this like more clear he's more clear-headed now, even though it's not what he's definitely not what a hero should be, but he's more clear-headed. He doesn't have the voices anymore. I think Butcher's kind of going through something similar right now because he's at a crossroads, because he has like an angel and devil on his shoulder. He has his wife talking to him, trying to tell him the right thing to do, and he has Jeffrey Dean Morgan that's like, nah, go back to your old ways. Like, he's torn between them, because Jeffrey Dean Morgan is like, nah, this is gonna get bad. We need to do whatever it takes to keep these soups in check and take them out. And on the other side of that is not even necessarily talking about all the other soups, but specifically Ryan, who's potentially the most powerful out of all of them. The mom just like, hey, help Ryan, get him away from Homelander, do whatever it takes. And so he literally has two different people saying to do whatever it takes, except it's two opposite things. All the while, he has something going on in him. And what I'm trying to figure out now is this something where it's like, it's literally like, I wonder how much of this is like, I know he's hallucinating seeing her, but I'm at the point now, I almost wonder if the cancer or whatever has an end game here. Yeah, there's a lot going on. But I really do love this tension, because like Butcher on one hand is like, no, I'm not going to give him the cookies. And then now all of a sudden though, he's like, but I will cut this dude's head off. And so leg off, like no problem doing that. And so I think it's like, it's baby steps with Butcher, because I think Ryan is going to bring out every bit of humanity that Butcher has, the same way Ryan is currently bringing out that tiny smidge of humanity that Homelander has. He's the key to all of it.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what's going to happen from here on out, but I have a couple thoughts on the Butcher situation. First, I like the parallel this season between Homelander kind of grappling with kind of, trying to shed as much of his humanity as possible, and Butcher realizing that he is slowly and increasingly losing his. And I'm ready to see more Butcher versus Homelander. I'm mad that most of the time when Butcher fucks shit up, he like blacks out. Like I'm kind of trying to see that, just being honest. I really am. I want to see how powerful he is. I want to see if he can actually, while going out, can take down Homelander too. I think that would be a cool thing to see eventually. I just hope, he doesn't. Something tells me he might hurt Ryan in the process. I don't know. Little inkling.
Yeah, no, I think that is literally my thought, is that at the end of the day, is it worth it for him to win if he kind of loses his soul and loses Ryan in the process? Ryan is going to, even if Ryan's right next to him or not, every action that Butcher makes is going to leave a consequence from what Ryan's perception of humanity is. His perception of humanity was his mom. And now it's only Butcher. And he, for the longest time, just didn't trust Butcher. But then he's vulnerable because, he looks up to Butcher. He needs Butcher in so many different ways. And so if Butcher shows this other side to himself and he works in this other way, it's not going to be worth it. Even if he successfully killed Homelander, it's just going to be another pop-up. Like, it's just going to be another Homelander that's going to be created from that sacrifice. So he's going to have to find a way of doing this while also preserving his humanity. There's no other way. And the truth of the matter is, this is also affecting his team. His team is not good. They're not in a good place. And we're going to go, I guess, next segue is Frenchie. Frenchie's going through some dark times right now. I can't remember if it was last episode that he gave the official reveal to his partner, that he killed his parent and everything. But at this point now, like he is self-destructing and taking a significant amount of drugs. Like he just cannot live with himself. And he brought himself down to the point where he's ready to turn himself in. Like he's just done. He's checked out. And I think Kimiko, she realized that he was hurting, but she kind of been giving him enough space, but she's also dealing with her stuff.
Right.
And I love the reality of their relationship because a lot of people do that all the time. Like you don't really know how deeply somebody's hurting until you really step outside of your own comfort zone to ask them. And it could be the closest of friends. You have no idea how much they're really suffering. And the person's not going to tell you. So I think I love that it's so a believable relationship, but I don't know. Sometimes it doesn't fit the tone of this show. I think it's not a critique, but it's just true. But yeah, I don't know. Can you guys talk towards Frenchie and the dynamic of Kimiko and also some of the stuff that went down with
I can definitely say it's heartbreaking to see their relationship change. I've loved the two of them since the start of the show. They've kind of been like the bright spot of every episode to me. So to see Frenchie all of a sudden not be able to relate to her or confide in her because she's on a rampage for revenge when he's trying to make amends for all of the evils that he's committed in the past. And then, to see him turn himself in without ever talking to Kimiko about it, it hurts me.
Aww.
Yeah.
I mean, I was kind of interested in that because at first it just felt like something we've seen before in other shows, and I just wasn't really on board with the whole, like I'm gonna sleep with the dude that I secretly harmed in the past. You know what I'm saying? Like I wasn't really there for that storyline, but this episode kind of changed things up a little bit, and again, him turning himself in at the end kind of threw me off. I'm not a huge fan of the whole, Kimiko and Frenchie's relationship kind of taking a back seat. But at the end of the day, I am really interested to see how they kind of develop on their own because of the fact that they're separated. So that is
Right.
one thing that I am really excited for because I'm sure this isn't a permanent thing. I'm sure they'll figure things out later on, but it's really interesting where we are right now because they haven't really been isolated other than when we were first introduced to them. So I don't know, but I'm really interested to see where Frenchie does go. I don't think this is a permanent thing, but it should be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um I agree with Busy. It hasn't been my favorite storyline because it kind of felt like they just didn't know what to do with these two for this season. I did like where they took it this particular episode. At the same time, with this plot line, when you put it next to all the other plot lines that are going on right now, it still feels like such a deceleration compared with what's going on with Homelander and what's going on with
True.
Butcher and Ryan and Starlight and Huey and his dad. Like it when they shift to this, I hate that I'm almost just like yeah. But what about this? Like you just gave us a rabbit with tentacles busting out of his stomach. Like I don't like you can't slow down now. And so him turning himself in, that was a big shock. At the same time, like I mean, having this plot line next to the 7 on Ice debacle that broke down, like it's still kind of like it's one of those things. I feel like I feel like every time they shift to it, it kind of takes the foot off the gas. And I mean, it is something that I feel like it's much closer, hits pretty close to home for some because of, I mean, just people that have their past and people that have those self-destructive relationships and people that have gone through like substance abuse problems, and so I do think it's like it's a good it's an interesting storyline, but at the same time, like given the levels of everything else going on, I feel like they haven't given enough attention to these two in the past to make me really strained for it now. And so I'm interested in seeing how they bring this into the main story with everything else.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really good point because, I don't know what's going on. The StreamYard was tricking out. Sorry, y'all. But no, I think that was a really good point. There are so many big storylines, and one of the more focused ones is that they brought my man Giancarlo Esposito back as Edgar. So Edgar has been busted out by Butcher and Mother's Milk. I forget who gave him the pardon. I think it was Valerie that did it. I can't remember who gave him the sanction to do it. But long story short, they want to get this proposed way of killing these superheroes through this virus. And so they know for a fact that he's the best person to get to Victoria to kind of figure out what's going on. So they break him out, but he was initially a little apprehensive about it. But the thing that really enticed him about it was the fact that he didn't know that Victoria had given her daughter V and turned her daughter into a suit, because he knows the ramifications of that. And it leads him down this rabbit hole to go back to find her. And she's in distress because they all collect together at the farm. They find everybody looks like they're dead, and they don't know what's going on. And in the episode, everybody is tripping out because they were like, what happened? All of a sudden, we start seeing random farm animals, and the farm animals have freaking Compound V in them. And they are destroying everything and destroying anyone in their wake. This was probably one of the sickest, most insane things that they've done thus far, because I've never been that afraid of a sheep. A flying sheep that will rip you to shreds in the darkness. Like them sheep in the dark, bro, like that was some nightmare stuff. I'm not even gonna lie. But what was your take on Edgar being back, Victoria in a vulnerable state because her husband got involved in it as well, and then just the insanity of everything that's going on with the animals in the Compound V situation?
So one thing I will say, I love Stan Edgar's character because he is the one human in this world that is seemingly completely unafraid of the soups. Like he does not have fear. And it's just like he said in the episode before he went to jail. He's like, you're bad product. Like, that's it. Like, that's how I see you. You are a you are a bad science experiment. And the way his character is just ice cold and just cool, calm, and collective at all times, next to Homelander, and even on this farm when he's like, use him as cannon fodder. That's how we get out of here. You're at a stalemate right now. Like, the man is just there's calculated individuals, and this man is a living, breathing TI-83. Like, this guy, like, he just has it. He just has it. And it's just, he's such like Giancarlo Esposito as an actor. I mean, he is just such a polarizing actor too. Like, when he's on screen, I'm like, I could care less what anyone else is doing, what anyone else is saying. What is he doing? Like, he is just such a scene-stealing, phenomenal actor. And so I love that he was back in it. And I really love the relationship between him and Victoria, because it's the fact that he's a villain and he's like, I taught my baby well. She betrayed me, but good. You see my girl. You see how she betrayed me like that. You see that? That's my girl. Like, that's his attitude, and that is just, it's such a phenomenal but true, like, villainous thing. It's like, yeah, she betrayed me. I taught her well. I'm like, good Lord, this is bonkers. And so even in this situation, I love seeing him interact with everyone, whether he's saying something quick to Mother's Milk, whether he's talking to Victoria, whether he's talking to Butcher. I just love seeing him interact with everyone. And then, of course, being on this farm with flying man-eating sheep, and he's got some pep in his step. He's moving, but he still has that cool, calm, collective attitude. Even when he's going back to jail, he's just like, "It is what it is." So I really, really love having Stan Edgar back, and I also love how he bounces stuff, like how him and Victoria Newman bounce stuff off of each other. It's just it's really cool to see, because once again they took a family dynamic that is reality for a lot of people, and they said, what if the stakes were higher for this situation that you can probably sympathize and maybe even empathize with, right? Who doesn't want to protect their child, right? Like, even me, I'm sitting here watching right now, I'm like, man, I don't know, all these mass shootings that be happening, I might give my kid Temp V. Like, I can't sit here and lie, I would be thinking about it, right? Like, and so it's very, very interesting to me how this all plays out, because these are loving parents. Like, despite everything that's happened, despite everything that's going on, yeah, they make people's heads explode, but these are still loving parents, right? And so it's been really entertaining to see, and I can't wait to see where it goes.
Anybody else?
I was also just gonna, Keaton kind of took the words out of my mouth about Giancarlo. I'm obsessed with him and everything he's in. I also really enjoy the dynamic between him, Zoe, Victoria, Samir, all of that. I'm ready to see more of it. Not too many other thoughts, I'll be honest.
No, yeah, it's always good to see him. It's one of those things where when the actor pops up and you're just like, it's a pleasant surprise, because you feel like they have so much on their plate. You're like, what are they doing here? It's like, this dude is just, I feel like he's just popping up in everything nowadays, and I absolutely love it. I mean, the dude was in Abigail, which really caught me off guard. Just kind of a random appearance there, but
he's like the kind of actor who's only in something if he really wants to do it.
yeah,
That's what
and I
makes
like
it
that.
more enjoyable to see him and everything.
Yeah, exactly. And I think his appearance here, even though it was kind of, I don't want to say minimal, but it was just for this episode, it was very important. So I'm sure we'll see him again. But I don't know. As for Newman, I'm just really scared to see how this is gonna all kind of play out, because she's becoming more terrifying and terrifying as the series progresses, especially with how they introduced her in episode 1, with her like not even taking any damage when they thought they made like some soup killing weapon. Like, it's just becoming more dangerous, and I don't know. I'm hoping that Stan can have an involvement in hopefully her end. I doubt it, but I'm just crossing my fingers.
Oh, she gonna die.
Yeah, I think for me, man, it was the chickens, bro. I mean, you had, first off, I think somebody got like ran through by a chicken. Got these gas and sheep coming straight out of my nightmares. But I think when it got to be nighttime, I think it was that moment that I realized, like, man, like, there's not going to be a clear winner of this whole entire show at the end of the day, because people are doing stuff so messy and they're not communicating. The fact is that she didn't even know what was going on, and this is her husband's work. And then at the same exact time, they're trying to do some undercutted stuff with her dad, and she had to deal with that on an emotional level. And now her husband is involved. It's just so messy that there is no lines anymore. And I don't know what that means now that Butcher has crossed another line. Like, once she finds out that Butcher got her freaking husband, I don't know what she will do against the team ultimately. But I mean, the thing about it is, like, there's so many other facets going around, because Homelander has basically allowed the Seven to be a lot more volatile too. Because the Deep got his little come up in this episode. He feels like he can flex a little bit. What is the chick's name? Shade. What is her name? What's her name? God.
Ashley?
Sage?
Sister
Yeah,
Sage?
Sage. Yeah. She I think, was this the episode we finally got the confirmation what she was doing? Or was that last episode where it was where she was lobotomizing herself? Was that
That was
last
4.
episode?
No, that was that was episode 4.
Yeah, because in this episode, what was her? I can't remember what was her path in this episode because she did show up in this episode. But I can't remember what happened. Spacey.
It was okay. So in this episode, we actually got the return of some Gen V characters. So that's what we got in this episode.
Right.
And Sister Sage, I know, was there in the back, kind of orchestrating it all.
She was setting things in motion.
Yeah,
Right.
because we ended up. It was the involvement of Ashley's, I believe, her ex. You know, the crazy dude, because they ended up pinning the the leaks and everything on him, because
Right.
Sister Sage was onto A Train, and she was kind of onto A Train, but A Train and Ashley both kind of teamed up and pushed it on that dude.
Right.
And that's when we ended up having Homelander telling everyone to go crazy on him, and they just like jumped him while he was down.
Yeah.
And this is the episode where he starts referring to the 7 as patriots, like giving them commands starting with patriots, show me your wrath, and all of that. And it's just, again, more of how it's reflecting modern day America, and how like you said, Sam, it seems like this is going to end up in a situation where nobody wins. None of us are winning. There's a very few.
You know what? We're getting a little too real in reality now.
I'm just saying, the show is too, and that's what I really love about it. So,
nah, that's fair. That's fair. But I saved the best / worst / saddest for last, and that's Huey. Huey's dad in the last episode. We find out that his mother gave the dad the compound V, and it seemed like everything was okay, but then all of a sudden, like, his dad just didn't even remember who Huey was. And in the beginning of this episode, it was just heartbreaking. I'm not even gonna lie, man. Hugh's dad literally ran through somebody and poofed away, and he just didn't even think about it. Like, he was literally a human Nightcrawler machine, because he could poof anywhere he wanted to, but he had zero to low remorse for anything. And he's mad at Huey's mother. The only thing he remembers is that Huey's mother left them, and he doesn't even look at Huey as his son at all. So it's something straight out of a nightmare. And I felt so bad for Huey, but I wanted you guys to kind of talk towards it, because it was heartbreaking. I'm not even gonna lie, man. Like, when Huey got the revelation of what he ultimately was gonna have to do, when that was something he didn't want to do 3 episodes ago, I don't know. You guys want to talk towards it?
It was horrible.
So, yeah, I mean, it was. I mean, I think the first scene we see is them walking into like a hospital room, and he's just standing over like one of the beds, and then you kind of pan over to a body on the ground, and then I'm pretty sure he has a heart in his hand.
He did.
So as soon as you see that, I don't think they really revealed what his ability was at that point. So it was just a matter of like questioning every little thing. Like, and I think that's what they did a really good job with that. Cause I mean, every scene that we've had with this man, he's been an innocent dude. He's been the most normal human that we've seen. He knows his limits. He even said to Huey, like in the first episode, you don't have the stomach to continue this. Why don't we just kick back and, forget the fight? Cause we're not fighters. That's not what we do. So to see him in this state of mind where he is forgetting everything, where he is literally a tank and just running through people, it was just an entirely different experience. It was just really brutal to see how this was going. And it was just, to be realistic, we ultimately knew how it was going to end. Like, I mean, for somebody who's losing their mind and who is given these abilities, it was just clear how it was going to end. So I think this entire little plot with Huey and his father was just extremely depressing, because I feel like we all kind of knew how it was gonna just end, conclude.
Yeah. I felt really bad after the fact, because I was on edge after the jump scare with the rabbit. And so I was thinking, with it being the boys, that after, like, when he was on his way out and passing away, like there was going to be like a head exploding or something like that they were going to do. And so I felt really, really bad after the fact that like I didn't get to take in this extremely sad but also like moment, because I was just waiting for something to happen. I was just like, oh, what's about to happen? And it's like, this was actually a very serious, serene moment. But after that rabbit, I was just on edge after that. But I mean, God, you think about like, and I keep going back to how like this is something that people can sympathize and empathize with. I mean,
Right.
loved ones with things like dementia, things like Alzheimer's. It's just absolutely heartbreaking. And then they just bring it up a scale like this. Here's someone with uncontrollable powers with these issues, and it's just absolutely heartbreaking. It kind of reminds me of what they did in Logan, when you find out Professor X had like his mental health was his mind was kind of deteriorating, and he made a mistake and killed all the X-Men, right? Like it was something, it kind of reminded me of that. And so seeing this it was so heartbreaking. And Simon Pegg is such a phenomenal actor. I was really, really happy that like they gave him such a wild, because it's The Boys, but also by the end a pretty sweet, serene send-off, but I mean, just absolutely heartbreaking. I'm sure when I rewatch it, I'm gonna take it in a whole lot more, because like I said, when I was watching that part, I was just waiting for tentacles to pop out of his eyes or something weird like that, because of how this show is with the other storylines. I wasn't expecting it to actually go peaceful there.
This was extremely sad. I was gonna bring up what Keaton said about Alzheimer's. It's literally like my one of my best friends, her mother has Alzheimer's, and they have enough fears and trouble, making sure she doesn't leave the house unattended, unsupervised. If she all of a sudden had superpowers that allowed her to act on all of her worst impulses, it's just another example of the show reminding me a little bit too much of reality, and in a very poignant way, though. Sad.
Busy.
Nah, it was just more depression from the show. I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a movie that came out maybe 2 years ago with Anthony Hopkins and Olivia Colman. It's called The Father.
Ugh.
And
gosh,
if you really want to understand the different levels of dementia, watch that, and you'll put in perspective how nuanced. And even though there's a lot of different moving parts, like from the physicality to the depths and grotesqueness, but if you're listening to him, he's going in and out of time, and he doesn't know where he is. And even when he thinks he knows where he is, he's looking at it from a different focal lens. And one of the things that movie does really well, that Anthony Hopkins acts so well, is like you really feel like you're going through it with them. So if you watch The Father, you'll get an understanding of like the levels of that. I've never had a family member or somebody close that they've gone through something like this. It is pure terror, and that's why I think Simon Pegg, shout out to him. He did such a good job, because there was a moment where he broke down crying, and he was terrified. He was like, I'm gonna hurt somebody. I can't do this. I don't know what's going on. And I think that's when it broke me, like for real. It wasn't so much the fact, it was like them looking, and it's affecting his family, but it's also affecting his perception of, man, I don't know how I'm gonna stop. And so yeah, shout out to him. I think it's an amazing send off. It was terrible, but yeah, This was a great episode. A lot of moving parts. We talked a lot about a lot of different things. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed our review. We're going to give our final thoughts and then our rating. For me, I thought this was a great episode. There was a lot of things that they tackled and they made it work within an hour's time. I don't know how they did it. It might have been less than an hour. So for us to talk for about 40 minutes about it, they did a really good job as far as the writing with it. So for me, this is like an A. This is a straight A. It's not A minus. It's almost A plus to me. It's just the last episode's A plus, so I can't give this one A plus too. But Vizzy, what's your final thoughts and rating?
So I think I'm gonna give this episode a B plus. Really, really looking forward to more. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I think the send off was great for Huey's dad, considering that he started off the show. He was he was there in episode 1, and to see it kind of come full circle was definitely interesting. For him to tell Huey, yo, we can't stand up against these soups. We can't do this. We don't have the fight into us. To him actually being a soup while he died was just, I don't know, it was kind of interesting to me. And then of course his mom being back in the picture is leaving me very curious on how they're going to end up going about that. She was secretly talking to, the dad for the last year apparently. So I don't know. I just got a lot of questions, I'm just curious. So I think it's gonna be great. But yeah.
My man, Busy's emotionally compromised. It's okay, Busy.
Okay.
Keaton, what's your final thoughts and rating?
I give it an A. I just, because of the things this show is just willing to do, like it
Right.
just that I mean, just the sheer it's the most violent show I've ever seen, and they still manage to put a decent plot in there with it, right? But also another reason I give it an A is for the plot lines it sets up, because now you have this relationship between Huey and his mom, and you're interested in seeing where that is. Another thing that I am also kind of worried about is I don't want Huey to shift into where Butcher is, and I'm scared that's gonna happen after, once again, Vought Industries in his dad's veins caused this horrible situation. And he's just gonna be, I don't want him to be full of hatred because of what just happened. As horrible as it is, I don't like it. I mean, anybody would be full of hatred after seeing that happen, right? Especially with the industry that already got your girlfriend killed and has done so many other things. I'm interested in seeing how Huey does from this, because this was absolutely heartbreaking. And then on the other side of that, seeing the relationship between Edgar and Newman and how she went and got him out again and all that. And so I'm really, it gets an A from me just because, I mean, it just keeps you glued to the chair.
Yeah. Nah. Last but not least.
Yeah, it's about I'm feeling like an A minus ish for me. It's a great episode. I do wish that they had handled Kimiko's and Frenchie's relationship in a little bit more differently, in a way that was more satisfying for the fans and everything. This episode was everything. It was action packed. It was heartbreaking. Great comeback from Giancarlo. Not quite as great as the last episode, but pretty damn good.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're done, you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Everybody, where can everybody find your content? Keaton, you got first.
You can find you can find all of my movie and TV show reviews here with TeamJVS. Been doing this dance with Sam for a couple years now. But in addition to that, me and my friend Dr. Amelia Brown run a podcast called Bat Therapy, where we examine mental health through the lens of comics and film. check us out. We are available everywhere: Spotify, Apple, Google, YouTube, wherever you can listen to podcasts, you can find us. Our website is bat-therapy.com. But yeah, check out Bat Therapy. We've got some fun things planned in the future, a lot of fun guests. But yeah, check us out.
Yes, sir. Busy. Where can everybody find you?
Busy Braun everywhere. Busy Reactions on Instagram and over here doing reviews on TeamJVS.
Thank you, Busy. Thank you for showing up. Last but not least, the floor.
Twitch link is right there. Go there. Follow me, please.
What are you currently streaming?
Elden Ring.
Nice.
Ooh, you heard it here first, guys. We're gonna go until next episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace, people.
Filing out the top of the
I can see the skyline, 50 mile radius on my timeline. Ain't nothing on my mind. Oh, Lord.